All right, let's move on to the last question. So we all know that the price of gym equipment is rising. It would be really great to hear from all of you as to why that is, just so like your average consumer can understand. I'm sure you see a lot of complaints these days as to why the prices are going up.
UPS, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg. Next question.
Nailed it.
No. The gym prices is going up. Really, the value of the dollar is going down. But from a fitness standpoint, materials. I think most of you guys make all of your products and source your materials in the U.S. Things are getting expensive. Raw materials changing by 10% affects, finished products by 40 or 50%. And it's getting harder and harder to get things shipped to you. Shipping delays and demand for certain things everything's changed so dramatically in the last 2 years. Cardboard is up 30% from 3 years ago. Jason, you guys can talk about the metal industry. Last time I checked, aluminum was up like 40, 50, 60, 70%, and steel was up 300 at its peak at one point in time. Gosh, Mike, that's got to affect you pretty hard too. I deal with foams, which is oil-based products. So, it's when Russia goes to war with Ukraine and gas reaches $5 or $6 a gallon, it affects foam prices dramatically. Blowing agents come out of Taiwan, which have been extraordinarily expensive to get and to mix in with foams. And the tooling that we use to make all of our aluminum molds comes from Ukraine. Haven't been able to get that for a little while. It's getting difficult out there for some products, but it's going to get worse. But luckily for us, we could control our manufacturing and our pipeline and make some changes and alter materials to be able to keep and maintain price points. And we've had, a healthy enough margin in our products because of some price changes that we've initiated 2 years back pre-pandemic to where we're able to keep the price points of our existing products the same. But you better believe it, when we are releasing new products now, we're basing it off of the modern day prices to get things, not what we're hoping it to return to 2 years from now, if that is the case. So I know companies that are pricing in additional margin just for the anticipation of things going up. We haven't been doing that, but we're aware of it.
I agree. And I think it's a lot of it's there's a shortage of supply and obviously an increase of demand because when everything stopped, there's no reserve. So like even just this aluminum that material I got for the jacks I ordered like 6 weeks ago and it still was late, so I think the challenge, especially with companies like us that are smaller, make more innovative products, tend to have less margins because they're more unique. And that's been the challenge for us because we haven't increased our prices at all, but that's pretty much, we're at the edge of that where we're going to have to start bumping the price a bit because you can only absorb so much of that loss before your business isn't really running very efficiently.
I know like for a fact that we make a lot of steel products, maybe not as much as racks. We make weight plates out of steel. Back in 2020, August, I think steel was like $440 a ton for a hot rolled coil. And then in 2021 in August, a year later, it was like almost $2,000 for the same roll. So, we did our best actually to not, we don't want to raise prices. I'm sure none of you guys want to raise prices. That's not like the game. I want more people to buy our stuff. Like our fractional plates, I think have been $39.99 for like 2 or 3 years. And I think cost has steadily risen. I feel like we're always trying to fight for pennies. I'm sure you guys are too. Like I can swap a coater and save 5 cents a plate, or I can swap a box material or make it thinner, make it smaller, or something like that. But the price increase is real. I guess you have to pass some on because you just can't make it as affordable. Like our 2.5s, 5s, and 10s did really well at the beginning of the pandemic. And honestly, we lost probably 80-90% of sales on that because like a lot of the overseas stuff came back. And like my prices were just high, and there's just no way to beat it when you're paying $2 and $3 a pound for metal. You have to make money on it or else you can't sell it. So, but I've seen that across the board of like, especially wait times, like Steve mentioned, like just ordering rubber bands for our previous version of the dumbbell plates used to take 2 weeks. It's taken 8 weeks for me to get them. So I've had to use other sources, pay more money for it. Coating companies have taken weeks and weeks longer. How they make our fractional plates out of pressed metal, they ran out of like remill powder. So they had to mix it with new powder, which just cost more money. I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag of that. And the supply and demand's really affected it. But we've done our best to try to save pennies and cut costs at our level to try to keep a valuable product for the customer as best we can.
There's a lot of people that don't understand exactly what the actions of some of these extraordinarily large companies have on some of us smaller companies. Like for instance, this is a small change that happened for a large company that affected us dramatically. The iOS 14 update that Apple initiated, where you have to initiate your privacy settings for every single app that you go into, absolutely destroyed Facebook in terms of their ability to track, to sell ads and acquire customers, which drastically affected all of us or any of you that sell on Facebook or Instagram through advertisements. My cost to acquire a customer has gone up substantially since then. So a little privacy act that Apple puts into place screws over Facebook, which then affects us dramatically. These large shifts between UPS charging more to the smaller companies to be able to subsidize the larger companies affects us dramatically. A 30% price hike in shipping comes straight from our bottom line, because I don't know about you guys, but I absorb some of my shipping costs, about 20 to 30% of it straight out of the gate. If UPS is charging me 10, I'm charging 7, just because there's a limit based off of what you're able to charge for certain things. So there's some big changes out there that are happening that we have no control over, apart from the supply chain or raw material price increases or inflation that are affecting our bottom lines dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's made great points. One point that I don't think anyone's made is something that probably affects anyone who's got high skilled labor involved in their process. Finding people who are able to make parts, form metal, run a laser, like Patryk said, we're working with $1 million fiber lasers that cut this stuff. And it takes a skilled operator to make sure that they're cutting it right. You may not know, but a 10/32 hole that's going to hold a screw for UHMW, if you don't have your laser set right, it's going to shape it in a cone. And so when you go to tap that, you're not going to have threads on the back end and your screw will pull right through. Well, if you make 600 parts that way, you are effed, okay? Because those will have already gone through forming and you'll never even know until you try to attach your UHMW and things like that. And that's just like something that a knowledgeable operator wouldn't let happen. But what I've seen from all the steel cutters really is that they're having trouble keeping skilled labor employed. It's costing them more and more to keep those employees employed. We tried to go in, I only have 2 employees right now. One's full-time. I pay $20 an hour starting out because I expect people to stick around and work to our level. Well, $20 an hour pay is not cheap. We're not going to bring in minimum wage employees because we don't want minimum wage going into our product. But in order to do that, we have to charge more. And so, Patryk, I don't know if that's affecting you or Steve, and the guys who supply your cut steel, but that's where I've seen it most is in my sheet steel. Tube steel, you can stick that in the machine. It pretty much does its own thing. But anytime you have to go and form and you need a tradesman, I've noticed that there is a longer delay or a higher cost of doing those things right now. And I think it's greatly because of the labor pool and the overall condition of the trades in America. And I won't go on some Mike Rowe rant, but my father's been building aircraft in a factory for 40 years. So I've been seeing it my whole life. And it's a sad state right now. People aren't being encouraged to go into the trades as a viable career. And we're really seeing that impact us now, especially as inflation increases and the dollar does, lower in value.
No, Jason, I think you're spot on, man. For years through, school, and even I'm 32 years old. And so when we grew up, the thing was, hey, go to college, get a degree, and that's kind of like your road to success and doing things. I even remember in high school going to the vocational school and they're like, hey, you guys can choose to be a welder, you can choose to be a chef, you can choose to be a woodworker. And even me and my friends were like, who the hell wants to do this? This is stupid. Like, I'm going to college, and now I'm kind of looking back at that, and some of the most successful people I know like own wood shops, own plumbing companies, and I mean these dudes are multi millionaires. And I was like, man, 15 years ago I was laughing at that, and everybody else was. And then that's where this labor shortage is coming from. And also, like what Jason said, a lot of these positions are very skilled positions, and manufacturers, they're redlining right now. Like a lot of them, they can't keep up with the work that's coming into them, and mostly because they have a shortage of that skilled labor. So the people they have to keep them, they have to pay them more. It's getting really competitive in that market between shops. It's a very small manufacturing world, especially here in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. One of the biggest fitness equipment manufacturers is an hour away from us, and we share some of the same vendors and manufacturers. And even it's been costing me more because I'm not sure if many of you guys are familiar. We form our J hooks completely out of one piece. We don't weld on the cup on the backside. And that's just something that I wanted to do. I think it's a cleaner part. It's a stronger part. But I was talking with the guy who runs that operation who helps us with our J hook because they have that Haas machine that they can cut them. They can cut 3/8 with nitrogen. They have a very, very, very nice 12K watt Trump fiber laser that can cut that. Like we can't cut that, at our primary shop, so they can do a better job at it. Then they have that Haas machine that taps all the holes because they make J hooks 5,000 pairs at a time for this other company. But and that's why they have that machinery and that capability. But I'm talking to them and they're like, hey, we have to charge you more because this is a more difficult part to make. It takes longer. And frankly, where the tolerances that you want your products to be, like it's difficult to hold. And there's a lot of reject parts. We had an entire run of J hooks because they do the lefts and the rights, and then those lefts fit about, I want to say somewhere between like a 16th and an 1/8 looser than the rights. And so it's a very clear difference. And I took them back and I measured it with calipers and I'm like, hey, this is out of tolerance per our print. And that cost them a ton of money. And then they came back and my J hook price went up about 7% like per J hooks, which is a pretty big deal because that's not factoring in the cost for the plastic. We use the transparent polycarbonate plastic, which is a petroleum based product. We all can feel the prices at the gas pump every day. And so that cost is going up. And not to mention, a lot of these big manufacturers, for the better part of 2 years, they stopped manufacturing some of the thicker gauge plastic. Like we use 3/8 and they were manufacturing the real thin stuff that grocery stores and all these other places are using for COVID barriers. And so that also is driving the cost up. I mean, there's so many just little things that most people don't see. They just see the price on the website like, oh, this went up, or oh, the shipping price went up a little bit, this, that, and the other. And then they're kind of mad at us. Healthy margins make healthy companies, and we have to be profitable to continue creating products and to continue to prototype the products that we want to put out there for you guys. And not just that, but to honor our commitment. When we say we have a lifetime warranty, like I'm expecting to be around for life so I can service that warranty, so I can help, and be there for you as support moving forward. And that's also a big part of it. Like we can't cut our own throats just because you're uncomfortable with or people are upset about the price increase. I mean, we have to look at the big picture, and that's, all these little details just quickly add up.
So none of you would say that prices are going to be going down anytime soon?
No, I doubt it.
Not back to where they were.
No, yeah, no, dude, I look at some of my old purchase orders from 2019 and it literally makes me want to cry. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I would have known, like I would have just found a bunch of capital and bought an unreal amount of inventory. But it is what it is.
You hear these stories about with your grandfather. I used to fill up my car for a nickel. No one ever expects that to ever happen. Prices change over time. It's just the prices change very quickly over a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. Not going back down. The question is, are they going to keep going up?
I'm assuming I'm probably the oldest guy on this podcast now, and I do remember when gas was less than $1 when I was in high school. So that was
89 cents is the lowest.
Yeah. Filling up my Bronco with that big V8, I felt so good about it.
Oh man. So the real question is anybody here jumping on that EV train?
I just bought the wife a hybrid. That was our first.
Okay.
Yeah. So
halfway there.
Yeah, it's got a V6 gas motor. It has 2 electric motors. It gets 31 miles per gallon. That was a pretty good introduction into the whole EV thing.
There you go.
Still not totally confident in batteries, 100%.
Missed the tail end of that. Sorry.
That's all right. Does anybody else have anything else to add?
I think this is probably a good place for me to drop that we are going to have one more price increase on the UPS, and we're trying to future price it so that we don't have to have any more increases. Since we came out with a product in the midst of all these price raises and like trying to gauge where the price is going to be, I think Patryk brought up a great point. We can't slit our own throat. And for a long time, this was a hobby business. And now, I have people who are relying on me for a job and things like that. And to ensure that we're going to be around for a long time to back up our lifetime guarantee, the price is going to have to go up just a little bit. And it's my commitment to make our product of the value that the price is portraying. And we intend to do that. While I hate to raise the price, I want everyone to know that they're going to be getting their money's worth still. And we'll ensure that.
Awesome. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up.